Answering the Commissioner's Call. Here's your look at Mcfarlane Toys. Batman, the classic TV series. Batman. Kapow! The debonair millionaire Bruce Wayne may seem like your average cool cat, but you would be wrong. With a flip of a Shakespeare head bust and to the Batcave, Gotham City is filled with a rogues gallery of criminals eager to unmask the Batman, but they are thwarted by the Cape Crusaders' own clever ways. Maybe after this review we can all break out in the Bat-2C. When was the last time I've done the Bat-2C? Anyways. I'd like to thank the folks over... Where are we going with this? I'd like to thank the folks over at Mcfarlane Toys that did provide this sample of the 60s Batman that we could have a look at in this video. Starting things off, we're going to grab the tape measure just to see how tall the figure stands. Batman is a bit on the small side. We'll do comparisons in a second. The figure stands only about 5.5 inches in height, or it's roughly going to be about 14 centimeters tall. If it certainly helps you to get a better feel for how smaller these figures are, we can actually slide over Adam West Batman and bring in a much bigger, bulkier Batman. This happens to be the Batman from the Three Jokers line, also from Mcfarlane Toys. And you can see that in this case, Adam West Batman only goes to about I would say maybe the top of the bicep of a Batman. So he is pretty small. While the figure may not come included with a display stand, at least Mcfarlane Toys throw in nods from the original 60s series. You get yourself these action bubbles that we see frequently when him and the Boy Wonder are dealing with thugs. Usually they're all dressed about the same. These are also examples of onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is a word that also describes the sound that it makes. Pow and kapow, in case pow wasn't enough. One is molded all in sort of an off orangey red. The other one is all done here in yellow. And they've nicely painted at least the words on the front to, again, make it look like it did in the series. These have clips on them. At least they're softer plastic. And the idea is you're supposed to take it and attach it onto the figure's wrist. I mean, you can just extend, for example, Batman's arm forward and just attach it onto the side there like that. I personally, for myself, like to take the waist and twist it slightly and then attach the word bubble there. So it actually looks like Batman is swinging a punch. All of the figures, at least Batman and Boy Wonder, have come included with this. I think also a lot of the villains also do the exact same. It may be a little excessive. You can also do, of course, the exact same on the other side too, or decide for yourself. Unless Batman is swinging 2 fists forward, knocking the lights out on both thugs on either side of him, and you can do that. These will always be facing outward, though, so that's why when I usually had Batman posed, I had the arm forward, so at least you could actually see the word bubble as Batman was swinging a punch. But these are nice that there's soft plastic also, by the way, too. I know I already mentioned that with the clip. I'm going to put those to the side, getting now a closer look at Adam West Batman. We are a little behind on looking at these. This figure actually came out a while ago, and since then they've actually released several different versions of Batman, one of which that actually does have the cowl piece missing and exposing Bruce Wayne's head sculpt underneath. But this is the stock Batman head sculpt. I think there was also a surfer Batman that also came included with swim trunks, which we will hopefully be looking at in an upcoming review. I do like the head sculpt. I think they've handled this quite well. From all the sides, it certainly does look like Adam West. I think one better, they could also have even added just a little smirk in the corner of his mouth, because Batman was always smiling, never was all that worried unless he had to get rid of a bomb. Sometimes it's just hard to get rid of a bomb. That would have been a fun accessory to come include with the figure. Maybe at some point they are going to be releasing You Just Can't Get Rid of a Bomb Batman. Yeah, I do wish that the figure came included with some accessories at least. I mean, it's nice that they include these little onomatopoeia explosion boxes, but it also would have been nice that they could have included a Batarang. With all the gadgets that Batman has had in the 60s series, I think there's tons of things that they could have chosen from. Even the outrageous Bat Shield, which he tend to fold back up and somehow tuck behind. Everything sort of went behind in between his utility belt and his cape. I don't know where Batman was storing it, and I certainly don't know how Batman was able to sit inside of a Batmobile seat with a big bat shield sticking out the back of his Batarang or out the back of his utility belt. But head sculpt is good on this one. I do really like the way they've handled this. The paint is nicely done on the eyebrows, matching that lighter color that's also around the area of his nose. It's darker notably here on the front as it would have been in the series. I think in the series, actually, it's more of a closer color to this. It's actually just a little bit more of a purplish blue, but they decided to go with black instead. It's not bad. It's not too jarring. The cape itself is more done in a different material, more of a softer. It's sort of the same type of materials as kind of like those classic retro figures. And I like the actual idea of using a real fabric cape instead of molding it. The downside, though, is it does stick out a little bit off to the sides. I mean, I guess you could probably pull this down just a little bit and have the cape a little closer to Batman's shoulders. Batman's not a more muscular built Batman. He's a little more comfortable in his design. So certainly the figure reflects that as well. He's muscular in some of the regards, but like in the series, Batman isn't like a super muscular looking superhero. And I do think they've handled, again, this quite nicely. You've got the little bat emblem, which is a little more simplified of a bat logo. This has actually been printed on rather than actually elevating it. I think it would have been nice if they could have elevated it off the torso, because I think in also the series it comes across more like a label that they would have attached onto the suit itself. Then of course you got the utility belt. It seems to sit a little low on his waist. I thought I could maybe just pull it up a little bit, as it certainly is a separate piece from the rest of the lower legs or the lower waist. And yes, it is. It's a separate piece. So I can just probably bring that up just a little bit so I don't see as much of the blue sticking out from the top. The figure seems also not only short, but his legs are very on the squat side. It's kind of more falling in line, I think, with the idea that these figures are supposed to be based on retro figures and not necessarily something that's supposed to align itself with like the DC Multiverse figures, for example. My only real disappointment when it comes to this line not only is the fact that they're short, but the figure does also lack articulation here in the thighs. It only really has just straight swivels back and forth. Of course, we will look at more of the articulation here in a second, but I do wish like the legs could have at least split out. You can't do that at all. In fact, for the articulation on Batman, his head rotates all the way around. It is on a ball joint. The head can look down only just a little bit, and it can also look up only just by a little bit. You can also rock it back and forth as well. Shoulders come out. They were a little on the tight side when I first took the figure out of his plastic prison. Likely the Riddler put him there. Or you can, again, you can take the arms and you also rotate them around. Now, the thing about the arms rotating them around is you'll see that the top of the shoulder does stick out a lot further. So when it comes to rotating his arm, you'll feel right away there's a lot of resistance. Probably would have even just pulled that back just a little bit. Maybe made the cut a little higher up. The coloring of the arm would have stayed consistent, I think, with the torso. By having the shoulder sticking out as far as it does, you can't quite have Batman moving his arm forward. There really feels like there's a lot of resistance. In fact, just to move it, you can kind of see how it's starting to warp a bit, that plastic. You can move it back a little bit better, but moving it forward, there's definitely seems to be a lot of restrictions happening there. Figure has only just a single hinge on the elbow, which also allows the forearm to rotate back and forth. His glove, interestingly enough, does swivel on its own, as it's a separate piece. Hands also rotate all the way around. They only seem to be on pegs rather than on ball joints. Figure has just a straight swivel back and forth on the waist. And again, because the legs unfortunately don't split out, is a part of the articulation I have to leave out in this review. The legs, however, though, do sit forward, so you can have them sitting inside of like the cockpit of the Batcopter or Batboat. They didn't mention the Batmobile. I don't know why. And then, of course, he does have the bend in the knees, just a single bend in the knee, and it doesn't serve as also a swivel back and forth on the leg. It's just a straight peg, and there's no articulation in the feet. Figure does also have peg holes on the undersides of the display, on the other sides of his feet. So if you had yourself a display stand, which I so happen to have one just readily available, you can also attach it and use it with these Batman figures. You can also get yourself like more of a running pose, I guess, as well. Nothing like a good bat jog in the morning. And you can have Batman sort of more in a running pose, probably a little bit better than what I just did right there. And to finish off, of course, the touches, you can also take a figure and just twist it around. Attach. We'll do pow. Oh, actually, you know what? I just dropped that one. We'll add kapow. And again, that just attaches on to Batman's wrist. I do like the idea that they included that. It does bring a little more something when it comes to displaying these figures. Still, though, I kind of wish that the figure could have been a little bit taller. I do also wish that the figure could have had some additional articulation. Not maybe to the extent of what we're getting with the DC Multiverse, but at the very least, it would have been nice that they could have actually had swivels on the tops of their thighs. But if you don't mind picking these up with the idea that they're going to be a little bit more limited basic on its posability and a lot shorter than what we're getting with the DC Multiverse stuff, they're kind of fun Batman figures, especially if you grew up watching the original 60s series. Pow! Batman's a great looking figure. One thing I do like about this, and it's probably going to be geared more towards the people that actually did grow up loving the 60s Batman series like myself. Casual Batman fans who are only seeking out to pick up a Caped Crusader of the closer comics designs will probably be passing on Adam West Batman altogether. But if you certainly did grow up watching this series, even my 5-year-old daughter is now loving the 60s Batman. She always, of course, recommends to watch episodes that feature Batgirl. I don't certainly blame her. This Batman does have little limitations when it comes to not only the articulation that the figure features, but also the accessories as well. For all the accessories that Batman does have in this series, it would have been nice to see some of those make inclusions with these figure releases. Still, though, you get the action bubbles being included with the figures. A nice, fun way to bring this series back into your figure line when you're looking to display these figures. Both of the actual bubbles face outwards. So you can either have them facing inward, but that's probably going to defeat the purpose altogether. If you're going to be displaying them with people looking at the figures facing forward, then you're probably going to be wanting to have the words out. Pow! Double exclamation mark. A big thank you, though, to the folks over at Mcfarlane Toys that did provide this sample of the 60s Batman that we could have a look at in this video. What do you guys think of this line? I know, yes, it's going to be a little bit shorter than what we're used to seeing with the DC Multiverse stuff, and they are going to be a little bit more limited when it comes to their posability, but if, again, you don't mind that and kind of like the idea that they kind of hark back to the more retro figures of back in the day, then yeah, they are kind of fun figures to be picking up, and I could certainly see myself going down the rabbit hole, sort of like similar to the Bat Pole. I kind of wish I did have a Shakespeare head somewhere here in this room. One day we'll make that happen. But yeah, I could certainly see myself going down the bat pole, the proverbial bat pole, and definitely picking up more of these, especially being a big fan of the original 60s series. If you enjoyed this video, why not hit it with a like? If you're loving the content you're seeing, and certainly want to stick around for more, then make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and turn on the bell notification. Keep your peepers peeled, because while we have finished up the Caped Crusader, there will be other 60s Batman figure reviews coming your way. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.